Welcome back, folks. Another Sunday Satoshi Live. I believe that this is episode 12 coming at you today. Back with our regular guest, Benjamin Linney. What up, Ben? How you doing?
Doing very well. I'm glad to be back.
Bro, you got a new setup. You got a new setup in the background.
Yeah, I need to, what was that Japanese principle?
Kaizen.
Kaizen. Yeah, we're working on the Kaizen, always improving. Even if it's baby steps, just got to keep that momentum moving in the right direction. But, it seems that aesthetics and having a good background is critical for streaming, podcasting. Colby's obviously made an upgrade too. He's got his nice little cedar closet nook over there with his plant and gangster mic stand.
I'm out here in the hash hut, folks. Things, needless to say, stating the obvious here, but things are starting to get serious. You're in for a serious Sunday Satoshi today. Let me tell you. I titled this episode. What did I title it? I titled it Sunday Satoshi Live New Sats. I said new scene, new sats, something like that. I forgot what I titled it, but yes. We got a new setup going.
Yeah, I was gonna say usually you and I will like review some of the framing of what we're gonna do in the show beforehand, but this time Colby just pulled the trigger, and seems like we got a decent amount of stuff to talk about, and
there's always stuff to talk about. Come on, I mean that's the thing about the live stream is like it's not meant to be a deep dive. It's not meant to be clickbait, right? It's just meant to be kind of a casual chat, bring us up to date, see what's going on. So let's count us in. We did past 800,000. That's kind of cool. So are we back?
You got glitchy for a second, but it seems like you might be back.
No problem. Let's count us in. Block number 801, 985 is when we're getting this thing started. Block 801, 985. That's kind of cool. We passed block 800,000, and we're making our way to the halving. Brace yourselves. The halving is coming. We're about 9 months out. Some people think it's bullish. Some people think it's bearish. What do you think, Ben? What are your thoughts on the halving, bro? You had a good question before we pressed record about the halving.
Yeah, I'll finish this sequence of sentences with that question, but yeah, I'm excited for the halving. I think it's historically a exciting roller coaster for Bitcoiners, and I feel like if we're on the halving roller coaster, we just left the station. We're like going around that first little like curve that's nice and slow and gentle, and then I'm guessing towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, we might start climbing up the clink, 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 and then then who knows what happens from there? But it'll be exciting.
Yeah, dude. I don't know about that slow and gentle stuff, but
the part of the metaphor was I wouldn't expect that to keep up for too long.
Yeah, so it's interesting to wonder where we at, because generally I'm gonna throw up a little infographic for us to pontificate about together, because the halving in many ways is what makes Bitcoin, right? Let's check this out. I'm going to share the screen and we can talk about it real quick.
Definitely one of the key features.
Yeah, because it's what enforces the scarcity, right? And
right. I'll go ahead and voice my question for you to address at your convenience, which was before the show. I asked Colby. I think I was reading some email update or something, and it said that the halving is estimated to be around April, and I always thought that the halving was a fixed date. I had assumed every 4 years. So I'm curious what determines the exact date of the halving.
So that is such a good question. So it's based on how quickly blocks are being found. So it's based on the difficulty adjustments, right? Because the difficulty changes based on whether or not blocks are found within 10 minutes.
Right.
So I'm just checking out. This is a really cool site. It's clarkmoody.com. So it's estimated, right? And if we were talking about 10-minute blocks, that would put us at April 26th. And so if we trend faster than that, like let's say blocks were coming in on average at 9 minutes 40 seconds, which just means that the hash rate's going up, and we're having consistent upward difficulty adjustments, right? Then if the average block was 940, then we would be looking at the halving taking place on the 18th of April.
So sometimes it does go through periods where we might be hitting consistently closer to 9 or 11-minute block times.
Yeah, I mean that's where you get the difficulty adjustments. Let's have a look around, and let's talk about that just kind of in our market update portion of the Sunday Satoshi Live. Let's talk about.
That looked like an interesting chart. I didn't get the chance to read the parameters.
Yeah, so this is just hash price.
Okay.
And I would argue, my friend, this is one of the most interesting charts in Bitcoin, and just for very simple reasons. If you're a miner, you're looking at your revenues, and this is hash price per petahash. So if you have 10 S19J Pros or what have you, if you have 1,000 terahash online, you're bringing in $71 a day in gross revenue. And so if you're bullish hash price, then you're going to want to buy the dip in machine prices. I mean, that's kind of my fundamental thesis. It is just basically, as the number go up in Bitcoin, this hash price, in my estimation, in my opinion, do your own research and consult with your own financial advisors and all that stuff. But I think this line will go up. So
you would expect the hash price to kind of climb as a fraction or proportion of the Bitcoin price?
Well, there's a few things. Like, I'm going to go off screen for a second. I'll pull up another slide.
Also, that unit that it's using on hash price, that was dollars per petahash per day. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's how much dollar value worth of Bitcoin you get from running a petahash.
That's right.
A 24-hour period, which a petahash is 100 terahash.
A petahash is 1,000. So
10 standard machines of sorts.
Yeah, hash price is typically quoted in either terahash or petahash. Last week, I spoke with someone who quoted it in exahash, and I had to do some math in my head. I'm like, God damn, exahash. So an exahash is 1,000 petahash. So you take the $71 and it becomes $71,000, right?
Right.
But there's levels to this, right? And obviously, so that's gross revenue that comes in for a miner, right? And then the most obvious question is, what's your OpEx? Like, what's your operational expenses? Because out of your gross revenue, if you're plugged into expensive power, you're going to be mining at a loss. You're going to be buying sats at a premium, kind of unnecessarily. But if you have cheap energy or what have you, if you have really cheap energy at scale, then the economics work, and you're able to arbitrage the difference between the power that you're consuming and the value that you're generating through the proof of work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You feel me?
Yeah, I feel you. One kind of off the wall thought that I have that I've thought to bring up in the past and is related to my desire to figure out what's going on underneath the Denver airport, is that, that 0 point energy, who knows, maybe the government just makes up a bunch of crap to distract us from, evidence of their corruption that continually flows out. But, maybe some of these people say what?
Aliens. That's the current thing, isn't it?
Right. Even though they were joking on Timcast the other night, it was funny. They were like, "Yeah, I think everybody's so worked up that they really didn't give a crap about the aliens." They so then they came out with Obama's gay because apparently Barack Obama's.
I saw a meme where I saw a meme of the aliens, and they're like, "Don't you care that the government admits that aliens are meme?" And there was like a Wojak who was like smoking, and he's like, "Man, I got a lot going on right now."
Right, exactly. Yeah, Americans are like, we've got bigger problems right now. These aliens haven't really,
Bro, we got problems. We got problems like the cost of everything is going up, and we can't afford to be concerned about aliens.
Right. We got problems like using a money supply that's controlled by, thieves on the global organized crime international level. Basically,
we got problems like our strategic petroleum reserve has been drained.
Mm-hmm.
Not
like 30% on that or something.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Tone Vase pointed out how that's he thinks that's an impeachable offense, and I mean,
yeah, I think there's probably a list of those.
How did draining the strategic petroleum reserve benefit us? Like, it didn't really shift the cost of oil. I mean, it did, but very temporarily, right? Very much a Band-Aid on the problem.
Yeah, maybe like 10 cents for a week or something like that. Basically nothing in the grand scheme of things, but kind of significant in the, is America prepared to, face crisis or defend ourselves or, continue to function if there is some kind of supply chain crisis in petroleum or something like that.
Bro, I feel like this show, we don't, we always say we're like, let's prepare, let's make sure we're really prepared. And I'm down to be more prepared for future shows, especially now that I have this cool plant and this setup going on.
Yeah.
It makes me feel more prepared. Like the feng shui just feels better.
I just noticed the sovereign individual hanging out there on that second shelf of that table
Yeah, dude, that was my backup, actually. My backup, I'm like, dude, what are we even talking about today besides just Bitcoin in general? Because I could literally, no script, I could just talk about Bitcoin nonstop for hours.
Right.
And people get tired of it. Like I always be talking about Bitcoin. And so I thought I would just start broadcasting on the internet because like I'm gonna burn people out within my immediate circle. Like you can only talk so much
right
to so many people, and then you just need to go out to the internet and like talk about it with everyone.
Right. I need to start a channel or something and start doing like a weekly stream where I just give my, thoughts and rants on the news and memes of the week or whatever. That way I can spare the people that I love in my life that aren't as obsessive as me,
Dude,
spare their ears.
I've been telling you that for ages, and perhaps the time has come.
Yeah, I think the time is nigh now that we're finally getting the setup going and, dialing in some of the other factors at the moment.
Do you know what you'll call it? Do you have any idea like what you're, because it's not going to be purely focused on like Bitcoin. And I would say neither is my stuff. I wouldn't say that I only focus on Bitcoin. Like I'm down to talk about all kinds of stuff. It just happens to be my main kind of focus. But I'm down to talk about other stuff too. What are you going to call your channel? What do you got going on?
I was thinking, I've always thought it'd be fun to do like man on the street style stuff, like walking around talking to strangers, random people who seem chill, any person that isn't an ass that, is okay with talking for 2 minutes, 3 minutes about something that they may or may not be familiar with. And I always thought that would be fun. So I was thinking I could call the channel Ben on the Street. And and that could be maybe
Ben on the street. Ben on the street, bringing the heat.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. The more rhymes, the better. But and puns, of course. But
we do like a good pun over here.
Right. I was thinking, that'd be cool, and I could make that kind of the focal point of, and the most interesting part of what I, sell, my value prop as a content creator. If I get into that,
dude, I love random conversations with people can be gold for sure.
Right. For sure. Right. I could go out for whatever, a couple hours on a Saturday afternoon, talk to people in a busy part of town, down in a little, strip mall where people walk around all the time, down on Broadway or wherever it is, Pearl Street in Boulder, and talk to people for a couple hours. All it takes is, you get just maybe only one in every 5 or 10 people you talk to is worth cutting in, but some of those people are going to have some gold, I'm sure.
For sure.
And I think that's always good. That's like the kind of stuff that like is like open, it's like public. It's like I'm willing to talk to anybody who's willing to talk to me about these things. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you come from. I don't really care what your politics are, as long as you're not like a communist and wants to kill me. And even if you are, as long as you don't actually murder me, I'm still willing to talk to you for a few minutes, I guess. But but yeah, I think that kind of openness, also is inviting to, a wide audience of people on the internet or wherever.
For sure. That makes sense, dude. And I'd tune in for that. Would you, how much would you say, how much of your content would be Bitcoin focused as opposed to like what would you talk about?
I don't know. I feel like Bitcoin would be one of the big topics. Like maybe if I had 5 main things that I talk about, it'd
what
be
would those 5 things be though? I'm curious. Like, give me some topics.
Right, I'm going off the top of my head. I haven't even made the list, but I'm making it right now. So, 20% talk about Bitcoin, 20% talk about, whatever the political bullcrap of the day is, because I love that. 20% talk about, maybe health and fitness and, myth busting about actual health and fitness and things like that. let's see, maybe like modern social phenomenon, dating type stuff, like, you know, whatever, race relations, gender relations, like, you know, stuff like that. I feel like is interesting to talk about, especially with strangers. And so let's see, we got politics, Bitcoin, health and fitness, you know, current social phenomenon. You know, I feel like those are pretty good topics. That's probably the scope generally of what I'm interested in. Maybe, you know, like technology, culture, you know, might fill in some other stuff, whatever.
That's cool. That's cool. I find that Bitcoin, I will say this, and then I want to get back to the halving, and then but I find that Bitcoin actually unites people in many ways. Now it's very like it divides people if you're not with it, and the Bitcoin culture is very I almost want to say it's kind of homogenous in some ways, but in other ways it's not at all. It's very diverse.
Yeah, so, there's like a primary culture, I guess, for like people who are like, you know, want to be actively, you know, involved in the culture, and then but then there's also the fact that, you know, it just provides value and utility to literally anyone. So it doesn't matter whether you give a shit about the culture of Bitcoin or not, you know, it still can be a huge value to you, and you can use it without ever having a single Twitter friend who cares about Bitcoin.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there, but yeah, it unites a lot of very different people, and and a lot of that has to do with Schelling point or game theory. Bitcoin's all about game theory, right? I like to play chess. Maybe I'll put a chessboard in here.
Game theory is just a word that basically means like playing things out, like strategizing how certain things are going to affect the future of certain markets or whatever, humanity.
Yeah.
That was a question, I guess.
Yeah, game theory is all about strategy. And it deals with things like the prisoner's dilemma. And it deals with things like first mover advantage. So like if a nation state adopts Bitcoin, then that nation state stands to benefit more than the other nation states that lag behind. So there's a first mover advantage, especially with something like Bitcoin, because it poses a threat to the fiat system, right? Like it's competing with central bank monopolies. And central banks, in my viewpoint, they're trying to catch up and roll out their shitcoin CBDCs faster than they can. And Australia, this is news, like Australia has basically announced that they're making cash illegal.
Interesting.
And yeah, I mean, Australia...
Not surprised to hear that Australia did it first.
Yeah, it seems like they've been beta testing like how far they can push people in certain ways.
Yeah, I think of the Western world, it's like Australia and Canada, maybe a little bit New Zealand, or like leading the charge pretty heavy in a nasty direction.
Yeah, for sure, under Jacinda. Like
under what?
Jacinda, that's their former prime minister
of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Justin Trudeau, he's basically a Chinese employee.
Interesting. If true, big if true.
Right.
But anyways, how did we get to this point in the conversation? Oh yeah, I'm just trying to reverse engineer how we got to this point in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. How did we? Talking about Bitcoin getting rid of cash in Australia, CBDCs.
CBDCs. Australia's banning cash altogether. I mean, the thing is like, people say, oh, well, that couldn't happen here. When literally, if you read what the banks are publishing, and we've covered this on like our first episode of the live stream, like they're literally telling you that it's their top priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the World Bank and the WEF and the IMF, and you just read the papers that they're putting out, they're literally telling you exactly that they will be making cash illegal eventually. They've been trying to do that for decades. They've literally been trying to outlaw cash for decades. So, so of course, they're going to have a problem with peer-to-peer digital cash that's permissionless, decentralized, like just out of their control. So,
right.
Also, the fact that the halving coincides with an election year is also kind of interesting.
Pretty gnarly. Even though, isn't that always the case if it's every 4 years?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess that would be.
It's always about 4 or 5 months before the general election that includes the presidential in the States.
I suppose it would coincide with the. I'm happy for someone to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But let's check out these numbers, because this is I pulled this from Foundry, and then we'll wrap this up. But this is just something to kind of think about, folks. And again, do your own research, and nor Bitcoin Benjamin nor myself are financial advisors, so don't depend on our advice.
That's correct.
And opinions. But check this out, bro. Can y'all read that?
It's not crystal clear, but I think it's totally readable.
Okay, it's big enough to read, right? So
yeah.
The halving is so freaking interesting, right? And if you look at the returns before and after, I think that this, I mean, obviously, historically speaking, like past performance doesn't guarantee future results by any means. But obviously, historically speaking, Bitcoin's performed extremely well, both leading up to and especially after the halving event.
Is the time that's being measured in this top row, is that months or weeks or what? I guess probably months.
The time, oh, sorry. These are months. Yeah, these are months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I read an interesting tweet. See if I can pull it up here real quick from let's see. I don't have it handy, but just the way that this is going to affect miners, right? So think of what happens during the halving. The block reward gets halved, right?
Right.
And so therefore, and that's in Bitcoin terms. That's not in dollar terms, is it? Right. So, if the block reward gets cut in half, which it certainly does, then how much is that going to be worth afterwards? And that gets back to hash price, because what is the reward worth in fiat terms? Obviously, miners are concerned with what their revenue is because they have bills to pay in fiat terms. They have operational expenses they have bills to pay, and right now we're on a fiat standard, so therefore they have to think in Bitcoin, or excuse me, in fiat terms. How much is the mining revenue, the mining rewards worth?
Mm-hmm. Right. Ultimately, mining, is running a business of sorts. So you got to be able to run those numbers in units that you can compare to the rest of the economy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So basically, Bitcoin will have to more than double if the hash rate stayed the same, which it certainly will not. It has consistently gone up over time. Hence the difficulty adjustment consistently up over the long term. But let's say the hash rate stayed the same, the difficulty stayed the same, then then Bitcoin would have to double in order for the hash price to stay the same, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Not factoring for fees. If we're just talking about the coin base, we're just talking about the block rewards.
Right. Yeah, with nothing else changing, the Bitcoin price would have to double for everything to be static, essentially.
Yeah, if rewards get chopped in half, then the value would have to double in order for it to be the same, for all things to remain equal.
Mm-hmm.
And I will let's do one more. Let's do one more slide, and then we'll sign off. You got another couple minutes?
Yeah, for sure. I've got let's see, one question to pose to you and Bitcoiners.
What do you got?
Related to the aliens and the 0 point energy. Let's say that there is technology that can pull unlimited energy from the ether or wherever,
Mhm.
and essentially for free. If this technology already exists or comes into possible use on planet Earth, what does this do to Bitcoin is my question. Because obviously the scarcity of energy is one of the biggest factors, or if not the biggest factor, in the Bitcoin market right now. So
Right.
If obviously there would still be a limiting factor of hash power around the globe.
Yeah. So why would that be? Let's see if you can answer your own question.
Let's game it out.
I'll take a stab at it, right? Because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but let's see if we can come up with an answer. So you said that there would be a limitation. Why? What would be the limitation?
The limitation would shift from being a combination of the cost of energy and or the scarcity of hash power and efficient machines to just the existence or access to hash power, period, because the efficiency of the machines would no longer be as critical from the balancing a business side of things. But there's still only a limited amount of computing power and or computers on the planet. Are you still with me, Colby? It looks like you froze.
Yeah, no, I was just deep in thought, bro. You got me deep in thought over here.
Nice. And I want to ask these questions because just in case, even though I'm certain that the government's trying to use aliens as a distraction, that doesn't necessarily mean that none of the things coming out could be true. So, just in case they are, I want to, explore the consequences for the Bitcoin network.
Yeah. So let's theorize. So if there was unlimited energy, then it would come down to who can do the most work.
Right.
And the energy for the purposes of mining Bitcoin, the energy would still need to be converted into work.
Right.
So another interesting thing to think on is the fact that even if there was unlimited energy, the miners would still be limited by how much computing power they could deploy using unlimited energy.
Right.
They would still be limited by how much computational hashes they could convert the energy into work. Furthermore, right, it's also very interesting to note that there would still only be 21 million Bitcoins.
Bingo. Love that. Obviously, that's critical.
That you just blew my mind, man, because if there was literally unlimited energy, you would still have perfect digital scarcity in the 21 million Bitcoins. So that just blew my mind because I mean, could you conceive of there being unlimited computing power as well? I don't think that that's even possible. So, like, the fact of the matter is you can still only have so many chips to do the work, right? And another thing is from a strategy standpoint, if you had unlimited energy, you'd probably want to keep it to yourself because it's extremely valuable.
The government.
Right. Or, and so you'd want to keep it to yourself, so therefore it wouldn't be widely distributed where everyone could have the unlimited energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even if they did have the unlimited energy, it would be a matter of how much hash could you deploy and how much hash could you get online. Furthermore, it's not even about efficiency because you don't need to be efficient. You have unlimited energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be running anything that could hash.
Right.
Just hoping to get it online. They could be inefficient chips by today's standards or whatever. But
I've thought about it in the sense that, like, you could almost kind of frame it that nation states kind of have free energy in a sense that, they can pay their bills through taxation, or they control power grids and power sources like nuclear energy. So I've kind of thought that, governments already have a disproportionate ability to access energy, but it's just a matter of if they have any interest in deploying hash power. But
bro, Marathon is one of the largest public miners, and they signed a deal with basically the government of the United Arab Emirates.
Is this Marathon the oil company?
Marathon, the Bitcoin mining company that's publicly traded on the NASDAQ.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty interesting. They just signed a massive deal with the UAE to deploy a whole bunch of hash, and they're doing I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that they are XPs, and I'm fairly certain they're doing immersion. They're doing immersion with the one of the power companies out there. So there's an abundance of energy for sure. And you're seeing Marathon's an American company.
Mm-hmm.
Diversified in the Middle East.
I wonder if there's a way to harness like thermal energy from hot environments like that and convert that into hash power somehow.
Bro, you are literally just teeing me up to go on rants. Dude,
I guess we make a good duo.
Bro, El Salvador is mining Bitcoin off of a volcano.
That's awesome.
And it's legal tender down there.
Right. I was going to mention El Salvador earlier when you mentioned, whoever adopts Bitcoin earliest stands to benefit, by greater factors.
Yeah, President Bukele down there doing it big time. Because
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do spring break 2K24 in El Salvador.
Let's roll. I mean, I'm actually totally down to go. I'm totally down to visit, and we should make a trip out of it. You heard it here, folks. Sunday Satoshi, episode 12. Ben and Colby are going to El Salvador.
It'll be like episode 47 or something like that. We'll be in El Salvador.
Yeah, maybe do a little halving party down there or something. I'm sure that'd be a good time.
Yeah, stream from the beach or something.
Oh, sure. Good on the beach. Oh, sure.
That'd be
so,
chill.
Yeah, let's actually do that. I think that would be such a good time, and I've played with that idea before, and I think we should make it happen. We'll have to get the gang together and roll down to El Salvador. Here's another thing that let's sign off. Let's sign off because we're going a bit long, and we're going too long, too strong. But that's what you came for. That's what you came to this channel for. So you get what you came for. Check this out. Game theory. You can be like, think of El Salvador in the grand scheme of things, right? You got the IMF and the World Bank kind of screwing everybody, right?
Right. We're probably lucky that El Salvador didn't get one of those we came, we saw, he died situations.
Word.
I wonder why that didn't happen. Maybe it was because Trump was in office.
Are you talking about Gaddafi?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a shit show.
Didn't he get whacked for trying to start a United African currency separate from the World Bank and all that outside of the SWIFT payment system?
Yeah, that was a whole shit show.
It's pretty kind of disgusts me how, from a public-facing side, our government always acts like their foreign interventions are, for humanitarian and moral reasons, but then when you actually listen to the leaders talk in like more exclusive, whatever foreign policy conferences and stuff, they always just openly admit, oh yeah, I don't like this asshole, or they're screwing with our money, so we had to make sure we took him out, or it's always about as blatant and gangster, non-humanitarian, non-morally focused as possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of politics. Is it's very lucrative and corrupting.
Yeah, like the Ukraine war.
It's not. Let me say this: it's not much, but it's very dishonest work.
Indeed, right? It's not proof of work at all.
Proof of stake. Let's talk about this tweet from the OG Adam Back, who was cited in the Bitcoin white paper. By the way, I'm gonna put the Bitcoin white paper like right here on the wall.
Nice.
Let's talk about this right here. Let's talk about this.
I've never read the white paper.
Sign off. Adam Back says, "Bro,
I'm gonna fix that. That's my homework."
What if I just kicked you off the live stream for saying that?
I guess it wouldn't be totally unjustified.
By the way, speaking of getting kicked off of things, bro got kicked off of Twitter. Bro got kicked off of X. Ben be sending them extra spicy tweets that gets him kicked off of social media platform.
Here, I'll read the tweet.
Bro, I don't read the tweet. Don't read the tweet. It just basically summarize the tweet in a way that won't get me kicked off of YouTube, please.
Is YouTube that sensitive?
Yeah. Basically, Ben just had a very politically sensitive opinion about Dr. Fauci. And
I called for justice in a specific kind of way that apparently violated Twitter's rules on violent speech. Even though I called for a legal due process, kind of thing. I didn't call for vigilante violence or anything like that.
We're all for due process, and we're all for not breaking the law.
Right.
Anyways, moving on to. So yeah, dude, you got kicked off Twitter, bro. Just say you're sorry. Say you're sorry. Get back on Twitter, and don't, bro. Like, sometimes you might want to just save it as a draft and review it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's kind of cruel. It's like super cruel how they ban people. Like, I've never experienced anything like that on social media, but like, it's like they tell me I'm banned. They said I'm in read-only mode, so I can still go on Twitter and read anything. I just can't like retweet, tweet, and it still has all the buttons and the features. And then you like click the buttons, like you click the tweet button, and it just says, "Oops, try again."
Oops.
But
so let's read this, dude. Let's read only this tweet here. Adam Back says, quote, miners need 98,000 or won't be break even after halving next year. That's interesting. Miners need 98K. So 98K would be over a triple right now. Bitcoin price. If hash rate rises at 6.3% per month, like it did January through July 2023, hash rate in April 24 will be 633 exahash. Current average fees, blah, blah, blah. And he says 30 joules a terahash, 6 cents a kilowatt hour operation would be 58K break even. That's interesting. Because he's saying, hey, if you have even cheaper energy at 6 cents and you have efficient miners like S19J Pros at 30 joules a terahash, then you'd be breaking even at a 58K, which is like a double.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting.
That is interesting. And Adam Back is I think he's the chief executive at Blockstream. He's founder of Blockstream. So he knows a thing or two about the space, obviously. There you have it, folks. There you have it. The halving's right around the corner. Strap your seatbelts in. Buckle up. Stack sats. That's kind of my simple, my very simple strategy is let's just stack sats and stay humble and enjoy the ride. This is my first halving. This is your first halving too, Ben. But
right, stay efficient, stay lean, stay mean, and let's get this halving.
Word up. Appreciate you, dude. Next week we're gonna have a little bit more preparation now that I got this little setup going. And I'll be interested to see your setup. You're gonna mount those guns on the wall.
Yes, I'm gonna mount these defensive tools, somewhere up more in that corner. Maybe get a flag or two to fill in some of the other space over the shoulders.
Sick. That's cool, dude. That's way cool.
Figured the orange background was appropriate. Kind of goes nice against the, navy gray wall, and Bitcoin is orange pillage. We're here for that.
Oh yeah, dude. 1A, 2A all day.
Also, speaking of next week, I may be at the Young Americans for Liberty Revolution 2023 conference in Orlando. But the conference is over Saturday night, so unless the flight is in the way or something, then I'm sure we could still stream at the usual time.
What, from Florida?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be cool. Would you like?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll be figuring out tomorrow whether I'm going to that conference or not.
Okay, cool. Holler at me. Let me know. We could do it. We can adjust accordingly. Maybe we'll do like a Liberty themed episode or something.
Yeah, and if I go, I'll have to I'll have to get some like Bitcoin swag or something to like wear at the conference, and maybe do a little bit of been on the street action, with the young libertarian minded folk.
Do it, bro. Do it. Because it's an interesting thing to consider. Bitcoin falls under free speech for sure, because Bitcoin is code and math and digits and numbers, right?
Mm-hmm. It's text, digital text in a sense.
Yeah, it's speech, it's encryption, and encryption is covered by the First Amendment in America, anyways. But some people like Jason Lowry would argue that it falls under the Second Amendment as well.
Right, Bitcoin's warfare.
Dude, I'm reading a book right now, and it's actually really good.
Bitcoin is a great equalizer, a tool of freedom and national defense against enemies, foreign and domestic.
Read his book, dude. You should read his book. It's really good.
Jason Lowry's?
Yeah, I'll be putting out some videos about like just some books that I like, and his will be one of them for sure. I'm like halfway through it right now. It's good. It's good stuff.
I got to say that podcast that you shared, whatever, like 2 months ago, where he was talking to some British podcaster about, Bitcoin is warfare or whatever. That was probably one of the most memorable podcasts I've ever listened to. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that one sticks in my head just because the interesting topic and the, incredibly unique angle that Jason Lowry approaches, looking at and talking about Bitcoin from is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, so maybe we'll talk about that next week. And I appreciate everybody's time, Ben. I appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, man, it was a good show.
For sure. Stay humble, stack sats. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace. Thanks, everybody.
Peace, love, and Bitcoin.
Amen.